Welcome to the ordinary meeting of Dubbo Regional Council. I advise that this meeting is being streamed live to the internet. All those present should refrain from making any defamatory statements, and upon joining these online meetings, you accept the condition that your image may be recorded and streamed to the internet, as well as being retained in the archive of the recorded council meetings and standing committee meetings. I now open the November 2022 ordinary council meeting of council, the time being 5:30pm. Can I have Councillor Wright do the prayer, please? Oh, Councillor Shattery, sorry. Councillor Shattery.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Sorry, just before you start, Councillor Shattery, what I will do is I might ask councillors to stay seated this meeting because the microphones don't seem to pick up councillors that well. So some people online have said that they don't pick them up that well. So if we stay seated, that might give us a closer proximity to the microphone. So for a rare occasion, councillors, we'll just stay seated while we have our discussions. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. O God, grant that by the knowledge of the will, all we may resolve shall work together for good. We pray through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Okay, thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Can I have acknowledgement of country, please, Councillor Burns?
I'd like to acknowledge the Tubbergar Wiradjuri people who are the traditional custodians of the land. I'd also like to pay respect to the elders past, present and emerging of the Wiradjuri nation and extend that respect to other Aboriginal people from other nations who are present.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. A leave of absence, I have apologies from Councillor Goff and Councillor Wells. Can someone move those apologies? Thank you, Councillor Shattery, seconded by Councillor Mann. Any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Conflicts of interest. Can I have councillors, any councillors need to declare a conflict of interest? I'll come back to you in a moment, Mr CEO. I've got some councillors to declare conflicts in the agenda first. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Two items there. CCL 22/295, Keswick Estate Development. I recently purchased a block of land at public auction, and I feel that any significant development in that location would have an impact on my property, so I will leave the room when we discuss that item. And CCL 22/288, I understand that is only a report referencing ensuring integrity of council's land use, but it does make mention of Regan Park in that report. I own a residential property in Regan Park. It doesn't overlook the subject land, nor does it adjoin it, so I'll deem that as non-pecuniary, less than significant, and I'll stay in the room for that report. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Mann.
Yes, declaration of interest, Mr Mayor. Item CW 22/4, a non-pecuniary, less than significant interest. I own property and operate business in Blue Ridge Business Park, which is the other end.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mann. Councillor Shattery.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I declare non-pecuniary, less than significant CW 22/4 because I worked in Blue Ridge Park and I use Sheraton Road. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Shattery. And Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I declare a non-pecuniary, less than significant interest in item CW 22/4. I'm employed by a school on Sheraton Road. There's a proposal to alter the traffic flow on Sheraton Road. It's not likely to have a monetary impact on myself or employer, and I'm not likely to travel on the new part of the road when travelling to or from work.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other councillors with any conflicts in the meeting tonight? There being none, I'll put that over to Mr CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll declare a pecuniary and significant interest in CCL 22/295, the Keswick Parkway development. It is because there's reference to Durham Circuit in one of the submissions and a response to the submissions, and I'll leave the room and not to participate in the meeting while that's being considered.
Thank you, Mr CEO, and also Ms Bassingthwaighte.
I'll declare an interest in CCL 22/280 if it's taken from the meeting into confidential.
Thank you, Ms Bassingthwaighte. Any other conflicts for any staff? No, thank you. I'll move on to the next item now, is CCL 22/276 Public Forum. I've got 2 speakers registered, and then if we've got time after that, then happy to open up to the floor. But the first speaker I've got registered is Mr. Tim Wilkinson. Mr. Wilkinson, if you would like to come forward, and you've got 5 minutes. At 4 minutes 30, I'll give you a single ding on a bell. At 5 minutes, I'll ring the bell so incessantly that you'll stop talking.
Thanks,
Thank
Mr.
you. Over
Mayor.
to you.
I'll try and keep it a bit shorter than that, but many thanks. Thanks for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name's Tim Wilkinson. I'm a property development manager with Bunnings, and I'd just like to initially thank your council team for progressing the development application up to this stage with efficiency to be here in the November meeting. As you know, we've applied for an extension to the site at the existing Bunnings. If approved, it will create one of the top 10 Bunnings in terms of size, and certainly bigger than any of the other regional cities in this vicinity. Equally, we've been very lucky as a business over the last 2 years to create a number of jobs and employ a number of additional people in our stores, and Dubbo's been no exception to that. We've employed over 60 new team members over the last 2 years, which is fantastic for the community, and the expanded store will only give us more opportunity to recruit even more people from the local community. In addition, of course, to construction jobs that are created during the construction phase, which would probably take about a year, and some indirect jobs, and there's some information in the report that allies to that. Furthermore, there's a safety impact, which I think is worth mentioning, to have all of the trucks being able to ingress and egress through the proposed design along that rear boundary of the site, and ensuring that there's no trucks mixing with any of the consumer cars will be really beneficial, in addition to a second goods area where the smaller trucks that are both dropping off and picking up any bulk loads can also do the same through that rear boundary. So we think that's a real beneficial point. So once again, thanks for allowing me to speak this evening, and just to confirm, if it wasn't obvious, obviously I'm in support of the council officer's recommendation that the development application is approved. Many thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkinson. And the next speaker I've got registered is Therese Delaney. So, Mr. Delaney, if you'd like to come forward again, you've got the same rules. 5 minutes. At 4 minutes 30, I'll give you a single ding, and 5 minutes I'll ding a lot angrier. So, thank you. Over to you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak this afternoon. My name is Therese Delaney. I am here to speak on behalf of my 95-year-old mother, Mrs Marion Morris, who resides at 9 Purvis Lane, Dubbo. This property has been in the family for just under 100 years. Up until about 30 years ago, the property predominantly only had one natural flow of water through it. This was Troy Creek. It would flow under the railway culvert at the back of Mum's property, dispersed across the low-lying land adjoining Mum's land. This is now owned by J.R. Richards. When the volume was large enough, it would then flow through the back fence into the family property, but some of this flow would also make its way to Fitzroy Street. If the flow became too great for the back culvert, it would flow down the eastern side of the railway line to a second culvert, and situated at the side of at approximately the halfway mark along the side of Mum's property. Once again, through the property, met up with the water coming from the back property. It would then cross Fitzroy Street and make its way down to Macquarie River. Even with the expansion of East Dubbo, this was not a major problem. Our issue, which we would like to address with the Mayor and councillors today, is the volume of water that now flows through the property at the drop of a hat, and the water from an EPA No. 1 site situated on J.R. Richards' property. The problem started in the early 90s when the council put a culvert in Fitzroy Street, adjacent to our property. I approached the gentleman in charge of the project at the time, tried to explain the culvert was being put in the wrong position. I was told that they were using a topography map, and topography maps are not wrong. Well, in this case it was wrong, as the water could only reach the culvert if the volume was large enough to flood Mum's property. Then and only then could it reach the culvert. If the volume was not large enough, it would form a lake in the back section of our property. The water would become stagnant, smell, and was a breeding haven for mosquitoes. This would also happen when the flow stopped reaching the culvert. Around a similar time, Leo Fardell purchased the block of land adjoining the family property on the southern end and was permitted to landfill the block to make it level. This continued when he sold to J.R. Richards. It was never regulated by council. The level part of the land prior to the fill was about 45 to 50% of the block. It is now well in excess of 80%, and it also encroaches on the natural flow of Troy Creek. Since then, the land near Fitzroy Street on this block has also been built up and a row of trees planted, not allowing the water to flow across this land. Due to both land build-up, it forces more water into the family property. 2000 was the start of the widening of Purvis Lane. The council resumed the corner section of Mum's property to make the corner big enough for large trucks. When this was complete, the culvert that was at the end of Fitzroy Street and allowed the water to flow from Purvis Lane had been removed. At the time, we did not realise this was an indication of things to come. 2010, J.R. Richards put in a DA for a truck wash. We had reservations and voiced our opinions on where the excess water from the wash was to be stored and where it was to be released into. I quote, and this is from a council letter, "All water used in the truck wash area will be disposed of into the sewer system. This will not be connected to the stormwater system." We have video footage of water being released from an EPA site, number 1 at the northern western area of J.R. Richards. This water flows into Mum's property. In the video, you can see a small amount of water flowing from Troy Creek and the EPA water flowing down a specially constructed channel, but not actually combining with the water from Troy Creek until it reaches Mum's boundary. We have been told by a council manager that the water is fine and that the EPA no longer tests this water. This is the area I previously mentioned, the land near Fitzroy Street that has been built up and a row of trees planted. We feel this is to hide the flow of water. Since then, our Mum's problems have only got worse. There has been a lot of earth movements on the eastern side of the railway. Sheds have been built. With this, they have dug more channels and put culverts in to divert water away from these businesses. This water has been diverted into the middle culvert on the long side of Mum's place, with no consultation with my mum, my sisters or myself as Mum's legal representative. Most of this earthwork was carried out by council. Then came the widening of Purvis Lane. This has really compounded the water flow through 2 outlets through the culvert on the side of Mum's place. When work started, the council had at least 1 meeting that we know of, possibly 2 or more, to inform the businesses along Purvis Lane of what was to be expected during the periods of work. We were never informed of the meetings or invited to them. Originally, all water from Purvis Lane and the industrial estate was diverted into Mum's property. The council, in its wisdom, put a culvert under Purvis Lane at an angle so both sides of Purvis Lane flowed through Mum's property. Even go as far as putting a wall up to stop any water flowing past the culvert on the northern side. When we noticed this, we raised our concerns with council. The wall was removed and a very low wall was put in at the entrance of the culvert on the northern side to stop low flows of water going through the culvert, but very rarely do we have low flows. To our way of thinking, there has not been a lot of forward planning in relation to the water flow from the industrial estate, both sides of Purvis Lane. The culverts now on the western side of Mum's properties cannot handle the volume of water that is now flowing through Mum's place. Due to the culvert under the railway not being wide enough but high, forces the water into Mum's property like a raging torrent. It removes the ballast that has been put in the holes previously gouged out by the flow of water and spreads this ballast through Mum's property. I've got more to say, but yes.
Thank you, Ms Delaney. Your time has been completed there, but I think councillors have heard what you've got to say there. Thank you. Now, there are no further registered speakers for public forum, but we do have time left now in terms of our public forum time. So if there's anyone else in the public gallery that would like to come forward and say anything, you've got 5 minutes available to you to go and say anything you'd like to speak on. Ms Sutherland. So if you'd like to just state your name and you know the rules, 4 minutes 30, I'll give you a single bell, and 5 minutes I'll ring the bell a bit more vigorously. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Barbara Sutherland, and I would like to speak about the Northwest Precinct urban release, which is out for public consultation. My first and foremost concern is in relation to the area that is on the floodplain. In our view, that should always, the whole floodplain, and in line with our strategic direction for the green spine, should be public parkland restored for future generations. There's not a huge amount of recreational area for 15,000 people proposed for this precinct. There's 28.4 hectares on the floodplain and approximately 15 hectares. So that's and there's a general use, there's a whole variety of land uses for that, for those residents, variety of higher density and lower density. When you have higher density, of course, you need more public open space. We always need both public open space and more sporting fields. sporting fields should we should have no more sporting fields on our floodplains. And this is consistent with state government policy and the way the environment is working at the moment. But we have to have enough public open space for these 15,000 people who right now are quite voiceless. You councillors are their voice. And their quality of life and the way they live will depend on you and your decision making and your views on how important public open space is. Once again, we're of the view that as I said, we do need sporting fields. They should be in an area that addresses the sporting needs of all the sporting organisations, including car parks, and that can be shared, and those resources can be shared. So I'd ask you councillors to look very carefully at the future of these 15,000 people. This is an opportunity to make something quite amazing, but unless it's dealt with properly, it has issues with the River Street Bridge, and that 28 hectares is the only floodplain available to those 15,000 people on the western side. There's currently the River Street Bridge doesn't have pedestrian access, but I note that there is a plan for cycling and pedestrian access. But those potential high-rise do need open space, and I don't think this is the correct way. Unless some of those building lots can be used for sporting fields, which of course is another possibility, and shared, and perhaps there does appear to be some land that you could do that with. So I'd ask you to think very carefully about the future livability of our community, and when we develop a housing estate for 15,000 people, they need to have an appropriate amount of open space, and we need to have that should be parkland for those people, for those 15,000 people and the future generations of Dubbo. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Sutherland. You've done well. Kept me under the 4 minutes 30. Didn't need to ding the bell once. Now, we've still got time left in public forum, so if there are any other members of the gallery that wish to come forward and speak, you've got the chance to do that now. No, unfortunately, each speaker only gets a maximum of 5 minutes. Yes. So no further speakers from the public gallery, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you for those people coming along and speaking at the public forum. Item CCL 22/277, confirmation of minutes. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Showry, seconded by Councillor Ivey. Any discussion or debate? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 22/278, mayoral appointments and meetings. Can I have someone move that way, please? Thank you, Councillor Showry, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Any discussion or debate? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 22/279, report of the Infrastructure Planning and Environment Committee. Councillor Black. So moved. Seconded by Councillor Mann. Councillor Black, do you wish to speak to that committee meeting?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Any discussion or debate, councillors? No, there being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Now we've got CCL 22/280, report of the Culture and Community meeting. I believe someone who needs to move this needs to save and accept CCC 22/64 from that particular meeting. So, Councillor Etheridge, you've moved that. So you've moved the report of the Culture and Community meeting, save and accept CCC 22/64. Is that correct? Correct. Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Seconded by Councillor Showry. Thank you. Councillor Etheridge, do you wish to speak to any of that particular meeting?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay. Any discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Showry, just... Yep, that's fine. Sorry, Councillor Showry, you want to speak to... so not CCC 22/64 at this stage? Right, speaking to another part of that. Thank you. Councillor Showry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just like to bring all the councillor attention and in that there was a multicultural advisory committee meeting happened and the council staff done a fantastic report gap analysis through that committee meeting, and there was a bit gap analysis and there was a gap analysis done by council staff, and there was a bit gaps the services available in Dubbo, particularly for the new migrants when they come here and trying to make their home in Dubbo. So there was some service available and services not available. So I will request all my fellow councillors and mayor to support how we can improve that services and work together with different government bodies, with council and different other government bodies, bring those services. So Dubbo will be best place to live in for new migrants. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Anything else, any other discussion or debate, councillors, from CCC 22-64? Sorry, from CCL 22-280, excluding CCC 22-64? No. Councillor Etheridge, you've got a right of reply to anything that Councillor Chowdhury said, if you wish to exercise that.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I've got the report there. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. So now, Councillor, CCC 22-64 was dealt with previously in confidential. So what I would ask someone to do, rather than interrupt the meeting, I'd ask someone to move that we defer CCC/22-64 to the end of the meeting, so we can continue the rest of the meeting, and then we can move into confidential to deal with that. So, Councillor Chowdhury, if you're moving that we defer that particular item from there to the end of the meeting, yes. Seconded by Councillor Etheridge. So, councillors, any discussion or debate about that? So that's simply moving that component of that committee meeting to the end of the meeting, so deferring that to the end of the meeting. Any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you. So at the end of the meeting, we'll move into confidential and we'll deal with that particular item then. CCL 22-281, report of the Corporate Services Committee, Councillor Mann. So moved. Seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Thank you. Councillor Mann, do you wish to speak to that particular motion in the committee meetings?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 22-282, report of the Villages Committee, Councillor Ivey. So moved. Seconded by Councillor Black. Thank you. Councillor Ivey, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 22-283, report of the Reconciliation Action Plan Working Group, Councillor Burns. So moved. Seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Burns, do you wish to speak to that particular motion in terms of the action of the Reconciliation Action Plan Working Group?
Yeah, I'll just bring an update. I'm pretty sure looks like the first part of the Reconciliation Action Plan, which is the Reflect, looks like it'll be ready to send to Reconciliation Australia by the end of December, and we're hoping to hear back from them within the next 6 weeks afterwards. So the Reconciliation Action Plan's going really well and should be in place by, I think it's April. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Burns. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Okay, there being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 22-284, report of the Public Spaces Tree Committee, moved by Councillor Etheridge, seconded by Councillor Black. Councillor Etheridge, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 22-285, report of the Social Justice Advisory Committee, moved by Councillor Chowdhury and seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Chowdhury, you wish to speak to that?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. The next item is SJAC 22/21. No, sorry. Thank you, Ms Wade. That was only if we had Ms Wells here. Thank you. Next item, CCL 22/286, report of the Financial Performance Committee, moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak to that?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. The following item, which we'll talk about in the quarterly budget review statement, will confirm that some challenges still remain financially. Obviously, come through a period of flood, which has put some stress and pressure on cash flows and that as well. So I think we'll see a lot more in this the next item, I think. But that's all, I think, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just like to get an update through you, Mr. Chair. Finance dashboard update. So is there any update for when that's going to be ready for the community? Thank you.
Sorry, the final...
finance dashboard.
Oh, thank you, dashboard. Sorry, I missed the dashboard word. I'll go to you, Mr CEO.
And I'll pass to Mr Howlett.
The financial dashboards it's been produced. It's ready for council and distribution to make sure it's comfortable from a viewing perspective. And then the information is portrayed in a way that the councillors can understand and then relay to the community. So we're anticipating within the next 2 weeks that it'll be distributed to the councillors for their reference. And then once that's all finalised, it can then be put up on council's website and for public viewing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Howard. Do you want to give any more detail about the dashboard at this stage, Councillor Chowdhury, or do you want to wait until the public sees it? Thank you. Any other questions or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. The next item is CCL 22/287, the September 2022 Quarterly Budget Review Statement, moved by Councillor Black, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Black, do you wish to speak to that?
No, Mr Mayor, just a couple of questions through you to the relevant staff member, please. There's 2 items in there, the Wellington Gasworks remediation and the animal shelter at Dubbo. Is council getting any grant funding from the state government for cleaning up the gasworks? I'd be interested to know that. And the animal shelter seems to be saving us $1.4 million on paper this year. Could we just get a little update on the new animal shelter, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. I'll go the gasworks first, Mr CEO.
Well, I think the efficiency is that Mr Wallace will be able to answer both.
Okay, thank you. Excellent. So, Mr Wallace, over to you for if you can answer the gasworks one first, please, and then the animal shelter. Thank you.
Through you, Mr Chair. Gasworks, yes, we are enjoying benefits from a grant that we've received from the EPA for the gasworks. The figure escapes me at the moment, so I don't have that before me, but certainly that's something we're enjoying. And in terms of the animal shelter, we actually are still, we've put some money back because we're not confident in completing the entire animal shelter in the financial year, but we are pursuing design at this stage.
Thank you, Mr Wallace. Can I follow up a little bit more? You don't have the exact figure for the gasworks. Is the grant expected from the EPA expected to cover the full cost of the rehabilitation of the site from the gasworks in Wellington?
No, it's not.
Right. Approximate percentage?
Well, at this stage, it's too early to be certain with our figures, but it's a significant body of work,
yep.
And it's a dollar for dollar basis.
Okay, so it should cover 50% of the cost of that rehabilitation.
Yes,
approximately.
That's the intention.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr Wallace. Councillor Black, anything further?
No, thank you very much for those answers.
Thank you. Any other questions or debate? Councillor Ivey.
Yes, Mr Mayor, just a question and perhaps clarification from staff. I noticed in the September update that the budget has been revised and in actual fact the situation has deteriorated somewhat, not a lot, but certainly going in the wrong direction. But perhaps just some clarification on that is, does the variation that's occurred in the September quarter have ongoing implications for the full year budget? And I suppose allied to that too, or is just the change in the figures more of a timing issue than an actual change in absolute costs?
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Through Mr CEO.
I'll pass to Mr Howard, who's Acting Director but also Chief Financial Officer.
Through you, Mr Chair. So these figures are reported as at the end of September. What we're anticipating is that when the review is conducted at that time, that's what we're forecasting the financial position to be, or known facts, to the end of the financial year. What we're seeing under CCL 22-290 around the reallocation of funds is, since the end of September, significant flood damage to our roads. So what we're looking at recommending is transferring money from our capital program through to our maintenance program, which will see a worsening of council's operating deficit of that $1 million. So given that in the report it's detailing the ongoing impacts of flood, where it's impacting council's capital program deliverability, and some of the council services, for example, the Wellington Caves, where the caves are currently closed and we're seeing a reduction in income, that because we're still not 100% sure what's happening with the flooding, our best guess at the time is what we're forecasting as at the end of September be a projection to the end of the current financial year.
Thank you, Mr Howlett. Does that cover your questions, Councillor Ivey?
Yes.
Anything further, any questions or any other discussion there, Councillor Ivey?
No.
No? Okay. Any other debate or questions, councillors? No. Councillor Black? There were actually only questions raised, but there's not really much need for a right of reply. Council had that before us there. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 22/288, response to resolution ensuring integrity of council's land use consent in grant applications, moved by Councillor Black, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Black, do you wish to speak to that?
Oh, yes, just very briefly, Mr Mayor. Just a quick little refresher. The impetus from this basically came out of was the letter from Council in February 2021 that was used for a grant application by St John's Junior League, a letter of support or a letter of consent. The report makes it look like land use consent, that there's actually consent to use some land. The report makes it very clear that that was not the case. Having a read through the eligibility criteria for the state granting of that, it says that landowner consent for the project has been provided, and the council's letter was used for that. So I was concerned that council's consent or support might have been misrepresented, intentionally or otherwise, as land use consent, and the probity, integrity and governance positions there for council. I think that there's a big opportunity here for council to change their processes where letters that are provided that aren't letters of consent for land use actually clearly state that. So we saw that there was, council does write a lot of letters of support. There was 84 letters staff counted up. 84 letters of support in nearly the last 2 years, there or thereabouts. Whether that was a good use of staff time or not, I'll allow people to make their own judgment based on some previous comments on looking at information within the council system over the years with dealing with clubs and stuff like that. But one thing that did come out of the Freedom of Information requests all over town and Facebook and public documents is that some other letters were written this year for a federal grant proposal. 2 letters actually, and when looking at the grant criteria, they basically had to be letters of consent as well, and it doesn't appear that that was the case. No consent has been given for the St John's grant to the Federal Building Better Regions Fund Round 6, which has now discontinued that fund, but the letters are still there. And it was interesting that a letter was produced on the 7th of February by the CEO, which was a broad overarching council was sort of happy to support this application, more of a letter of support. But then there was an email from Mr John Walkham the next day, I think it was on the 8th of February, and CC'd to the Mayor asking for a different letter, a letter of authority to be written, which was, and that letter says that, I'll just read a little bit out here. This letter confirms that I'm the CEO of Dubbo Regional Council, owner of the community land reserved for sport and recreation nominated by St John's Junior Rugby League Club in their Building Better Regions Round 6 grant application. As the principal officer of the organisation, that is the site owner/manager, I provide permission for the project to be undertaken on the community land reserved for sport and recreation. We're really none the wiser what land was nominated. by St John's in their application apparently. So there are some governance, I see that there's some governance, probity and integrity issues for council in how these letters of support, or basically a letter of authority and permission here, are provided to organisations that request them, these letters. Can we do our processes better within council? I think that we can, and this is something I'll explore at a later date further. Also, we've got, just refer to my notes here, the report, very comprehensive report, covered lots of information there, including the frequently asked questions that was produced and advertised in the community, and a couple of full-page ads and on Facebook. Question 4 dealt with the basically land use consent, and it referred to the letter that was produced. Really it was referring to the letter produced, the first letter produced by the CEO on the 7th of February, not actually the one on the 9th of February that said permission was granted for land use. This is a thing where we could really tighten up our processes as a council. And it really is something that maybe the Audit and Risk Management Committee could look at, because when you read the what the Audit and Risk Management Committee is actually tasked with doing, there's a whole range of things, including governance, the compliance to strategic plans, really just ensuring that council's the best processes are carried out and are sought, because I would hate to think that council unwittingly is misleading some grant authorities, because then next time a community group or council applies for a grant, it's sort of like, well, can this actually be trusted? So looking at the Audit and Risk Management Committee, it wouldn't be bad to have them look at our processes, chaired by Mr John Walkham. The committee, this is from the Act, the committee must keep under review the following aspects of the council's operations: compliance, risk management, fraud control, financial management, governance, implementation of the strategic plan. How do these letters and from February 2021 and February 2022 comply with the implementation of the strategic plan, delivery program and strategies, service reviews, any other matters prescribed in the regulations? So I do think it was worthwhile to have a look at exactly how council is writing these letters of support, and if they are actually letters of consent or not. And I think that that's something we could tighten up on a bit, but we'll look at another time, and we note the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I just, before we went jumping too much further, I did just want to declare a non-pecuniary less than significant interest in this particular item. I know we're not making any decisions on it. It is only a report, but I do own a property in Regan Park which does not adjoin or overlook the land being referenced in the report, and as such, I obviously will remain in the room for the discussion, but I thought that was worth noting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 22/289, advertising banners on the LH Ford Bridge. Councillor Showry used to move that, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Showry used to talk to that particular motion, recommendation.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, the CEO done this good report, because few business owners, they came and asked for like how they can part of that beautification on the double, and part of that, like they want to do something with LH Beach, Fort Bridge, to put some banner, but clearly in this report showing like this is the infrastructure on the owner of that Essential Energy, and there was a link for any private instance, anyone wants to do something, they can go through that link and apply for, they can put for that request, and it will be assessed by Essential Energy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Showry. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Now the next item is CCL 22/290, reallocation of funds, heavy patching to regional roads maintenance. Councillor Black.
I actually have an alternative motion here, Mr Mayor. It is CCL 22/290, reallocation of funds, heavy patching to regional roads maintenance, there's just the insertion of an extra word, but I will read out the whole point anyway. Point 1, the Council approved the reallocation of $1 million from the heavy patching program to the regional roads management budget. Point number 2, that the necessary adjustments are made to the December quarterly budget review statements.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Can I have someone second that, please? Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Black, do you wish to speak to that?
Well, only very quickly, Mr Mayor, just that our whole road network as a council across Dubbo and Wellington and surrounds the villages is under enormous pressure at the moment. We're really struggling to keep up with it, not just because of the wet weather, but just in a normal budgetary situation with the increase in a whole range of costs to do with buying the material, sourcing the crews, paying the staff, everything to do with it. And really, the amount of grant funding that we get from the state government and the federal government isn't enough for us to keep our roads in pristine condition. And the more grant funding we can get, the better, because everyone in the LGA deserves to drive on a decent road, but we're finding it very, very difficult at the moment, and hopefully this reallocation of funds to fix a bit of out-of-town rural roads will help that, and then we can focus, when the weather dries out, focus on the in-town roads more. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
Just a question, perhaps, Mr Mayor. The motion says that the council approved the allocation of $1 million exactly. Is that too restrictive? What about if it turns out to be wanting to be $1.1 million? Or is there some flexibility there, or are we actually do we must adhere to that $1 million?
Correct. If the resolution says $1 million, then it can't be $1.01 million. Mr CEO, you've got a different opinion to that. I'll hand to the Mr CEO for an alternative opinion.
A complementary opinion, if you will, Mr Mayor. This has come about because of increased expenditure over budget, not to the $4 million. And so that's why we brought the change to the budget for your adoption. So similarly, we'll, depending on the weather patterns leading up to the December quarterly review, there could be further adjustments to the request. So there is that flexibility, but we would bring the formal decision to change the budget that's adopted by Council to you for a further adoption. Complimentary, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any further, Councillor Ivey?
No, that's fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just a question as well, and I'm sure it's in one of the previous financial reports, but just wondering if I might get a bit of an idea as to the amount of money that's been spent so far this financial year on a heavy patching program. Might just give us a bit of an idea in comparison how far another $1 million will go on that sort of program.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Through you, Mr CEO.
To the Director, Mr Owen.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Yes, look, I don't have the numbers on that, but it is a minimal amount at the moment, simply because we've got saturated grounds at the moment, so the excavating into the road structure, with it being saturated, we haven't been able to do the works. That's why we nominated this program to fund the regional road side of it.
Mr Ryan, that's answer that question. Councillor Wright, anything further? I can see you thinking.
Yeah, look, I suppose, obviously it's a hot topic and the community's talking a lot about it, I guess, and just to trying to give the community a bit of an idea as to some of the challenges. You mentioned, obviously the current state of the wet state we're in at the moment makes it pretty hard to patch. With regards to patching, if we can sort of talk on that again, can you give us a bit of an idea as to, when we're talking about heavy patching program versus, just standard pothole fixing, can you give us a bit of clarity on that, just for a general public perspective, and also if we are talking general pothole repairs, maybe what sort of money we've spent on that this particular, so far year to date?
So before I go, Mr Ryan, I might just go to our CEO and put his engineer's hat on to give us a bit more information about some of that heavy patching and some of the things you're talking about there.
Thanks, Tash. Just to be clear, so the heavy patching is more an asset renewal. So that's where you're repairing the foundation of the road and then you're building on top. So that's the difference that the Director, who will explain in greater detail than I will, is why we're moving money from a capital renewal program that improves the assets as opposed to that operational maintenance. So that's the challenge with a saturated landscape, that is actually undermining, blowing apart our foundation for the road. So it's all the important underground stuff. So that is the challenge, and why when the saturated surrounding landscape is causing why we can't do heavy patching at this point in time, which is that sustainable repairs. But I'll throw to Mr Ryan for a further engineering insight, Mr Mayor.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Mr Chair. The works that we've been doing to date, so pretty much this financial year, has been surface treatment only. So that's the pothole repairs. Just looking at the regional road network, as this is where we've had the demand. We've got about 242 kilometres of regional roads, and we've already spent $2.1 million just doing surface treatment. So that's not digging out, doing extensive works. This is just the repeat, and I understand the frustrations of coming back and just doing the same stuff, but we've got an obligation to keep the roads as safe as possible, and at the moment that's really all we can do. So that $2.1 million has essentially been pothole repairs.
Thank you, Mr Ryan. Anything further on that, Councillor Wright?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Any further questions or debate, councillors? Only questions there again, Councillor Black, so no need for a right of reply. So I've got that before us at the moment. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 22/291, registration of easements for non-potable water supply in Wellington. Someone move that, please. Thanks, Councillor Etheridge. Seconded by Councillor Black. Any discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to clarify or record for the record that this motion is just formalising what was originally proposed. It couldn't be done at the time, but it is now being formalised almost in retrospect. But what is being formalised in retrospect is exactly what was proposed initially. I'll just have a clarification on that.
Certainly. Thanks, Councillor Ivey. Mr CEO?
Yes, and so it's due to the change of delegated authority in my role, and we have to have this executed under common seal, so that's the important difference to the previous proposal. So there is no change in outcome on the ground. It's about how we can execute the agreements.
Thank you, CEO. That explains that. Councillor Ivey?
Thank you, yes.
Yep. Anything further, councillors? There being none, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 22/292, Dubbo Transportation Strategy 2020 Progress Report. So I'll move that, please. Councillor Black, seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Black, do you wish to speak to that?
Only very briefly, thanks, Mr Mayor. Just that it notes in the report that Dubbo is struggling to remain a 10-minute city, and I'd agree with that, especially driving up Cobra Street, all the lights, and over West Dubbo as well. I do note there it says about the River Street Bridge, that's mentioned a fair bit. And we saw, well, recently it would have been good to have another high-level bridge for day-to-day traffic in town. I'm not sure that River Street Bridge will achieve that. I don't believe it will. And it would also be good to have a bypass where we had all heavy trucks, heavy vehicles going over the LH Ford Bridge during a couple of little floods there. When the Sarisia Bridge was underwater, we really needed another high-level bridge in town, whether that was duplicating the LH Ford or somewhere else, and a heavy vehicle bypass to get the trucks out of Dubbo, particularly West Dubbo. And the natural bypass hasn't really happened. The Tamingli, Narromine, Emunjeri that we keep hearing about, that hasn't been taken back by the state government, where they're going to take back 15,000 k's of local roads. That would help get the trucks out of Dubbo, but that sort of hasn't happened, so that's very disappointing. But I think it's important that we keep trying to improve the Dubbo roads and also pushing for a bypass to get the trucks out of Dubbo. They simply won't be able to make the turn over West Dubbo when we do get the River Street Bridge, as it looks like we will have foisted upon us. Victoria Street and whatever the name of the street is, the highway, Mitchell Highway, trucks are too big to turn around there, various people, transport operators have told me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
Just a question, Mr Mayor. Is it, and I don't know whether it actually falls within this topic, but is it right that there's no pedestrian or cycle access proposed across the new River Street Bridge?
That's correct. If you remember, there was some presentations that were given by Transport for New South Wales, and they did discuss the fact that it's a road carriage. There'd been some requests made for potentially pedestrian or some other access, bicycles, pedestrian, etc. But Transport New South Wales were quite clear that it was going to be used for vehicles only. They didn't want the extra cost of the pedestrians on the side. So we are talking to them about potentially a pedestrian bridge crossing down at a similar location to get people from the touch football fields, the netball courts, down that area somewhere across the river on a pedestrian-only bridge to that area that, as we know, is going to be a fairly large expansion area as a separate bridge altogether, but not on the River Street Bridge itself. Yeah. And so we're also talking about some traffic lights somewhere on there where there'll be some road access from that northwest precinct area up onto there, but we're talking about potentially some sort of access there as well. Again, that'll be vehicular with traffic lights, but for pedestrians, a pedestrian bridge. And you'd have to talk more to Transport New South Wales about the logic around the lack of pedestrian. It may well be that it is a very long bridge, so maybe they didn't see that it was going to be reasonable for people to be a pedestrian on a very long bridge. I think it's somewhere in the vicinity of 600 metres. Maybe Mr Jennings, Mr Wallace knows that information.
We've just lost the live stream. It's dropped.
Okay.
So maybe if you want to adjourn for a short period.
I'll pause. Okay. Okay. Sorry, we've just lost live streaming, and I know that'll disappoint several thousand people out there. So what I'll do is I'll just call an adjournment. Susan, how long do you think you'll need? 2 minutes? No more than 5 minutes. Okay. I'll just call an adjournment till 6:25. So if you want to have a break, and I apologise to the public gallery there, but online is an important part of what we do. Area across to that northwest precinct area so that pedestrians can link those two together easier than going across a long 660 metre bridge. There's also the option we're talking to them about, some traffic lights that are linking some roadways from that northwest precinct area up onto the bridge to get vehicles up there again to increase that connectivity, but again not for pedestrians, it would be for vehicular traffic. So I'm not sure if that answers your question. If you remember the question that you asked before we went to the adjournment, hopefully that answered the question.
Yes, it does, Mr Mayor, because it just seems, obviously, from the Dubbo, the city development, when that northwest precinct comes online, it just makes so much more sense to have pedestrian access across the river to the other public space areas on the eastern side. And that just seems to be vital for the successful utilisation of both that northwest precinct area and the eastern side.
So one of the important things there, I think, as well, is that you've got an attraction for that whole northwest precinct area to be within a couple of kilometres of the CBD, so having connectivity would make sense there as well. Yep. Thank you, Councillor Ivey. I just want to double check. Ms Wade, are you saying we're...
We're not live.
Because they were the best parts of the meeting, the first 55 minutes, so they're just replaying those. Right. So it's still being recorded, I assume, Ms Wade, so that the meeting...
So when we lost vision, the subtitles were still coming up. People could hear us but not see us.
Right.
Now they can hear us but next.
Is it still being recorded to the point that if someone wanted to come back and watch it later, so if they can't see it live, if someone was going to watch it later, they could at least pull up the information and watch it later?
I don't think so.
Right. Okay.
I'm not expert enough in IT to know, but no, I don't think so.
The audio, it used to be the case that the audio was always recorded, so the audio is still recorded of a meeting now. Okay. So do we go as simple as old school where we just ask a staff member to... Okay, sorry, I do apologise for that delay, so I'll continue on, just to make sure we don't hold up the meeting. So you're right, Catherine? Okay, thank you. Radio, Councillor Ivey there, finished, so Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just a comment on that particular item. This is a fantastic report for the citizens of the city of Creek. It gives them a really good understanding of where the city is looking to grow over the next 10, 15, 20 years and beyond. And it gives the public a good idea as to why some of the decisions are being made around transport and how the city will continue to move. So I think I encourage members of the public who are listening and to have a look at that report and get a bit of a feel for that information. I think it provides some really useful information as to where we're heading.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any further debate or questions, councillors? No. Councillor Black again. I think there are only questions raised in that, so you probably don't need a right of reply. Okay, thank you. So we've got our CCL, because we had an adjournment in the middle of that there, CCL 22/292, Dubbo Transportation Strategy 2020 Progress Report. So I've got no further speakers on that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you. Next item is CCL 22/293, Dubbo Regional Housing Roadmap Progress Report. Have someone move that, please. Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Seconded by Councillor Black. Any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 22/294, D22/-360, Harbour and Building Supplies, Alterations and Additions and Boundary Adjustment, 112 Sheraton Road. Councillor, move this report, please. Thank you, Councillor Wright. Seconded by Councillor Ivey. Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak to this?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, I know that there's a bit of contention about a previous announcement on a particular similar development in the last couple of years, but look, this is testament. We've got a pretty large business who is extremely confident about the outlook of the city and is willing to spend a substantial amount of money here to expand and grow. Obviously, that business is a pretty strong anchor tenant for what is I suppose a growing but also rather diverse area of business in the city up there. So yeah, absolutely fantastic, and well done to the proponents for having some confidence in our city.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other speakers? Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor, following on from Councillor Wright's comments there. It just seems to be a bit of a win-win to really consolidate in that area and add to an existing infrastructure there with further infrastructure which will complement what's there so much better than moving to another site and therefore having to do something with the old site and put it back into some sort of usable situation. So being able to just expand from what's there, end up with something that's much, much better than what's there now, it really is a win-win. It's great.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Councillor Wright, you can ask a question. Yes?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I know there's been a lot of public feedback with regards to some of the access roads inside that current development, and I'm sure that the burning question for a lot of members of the public would be that, so through you, Mr. Mayor, as a condition of the approval of such an extension of that particular business, would there be likely to be some sort of, I suppose, request from council for that internal infrastructure such as roads to be upkept, maintained, improved in some way, shape or form?
Thank you, Councillor Wright. I'll take that question through to the CEO, who will hand it over to Mr. Wallace.
I'll pass it through to Senior Planner. Not at this particular point in time, no. The internal road is to remain as part of the development site, so it's not intended to dedicate that to council.
And sorry, just to follow up, putting some words in Councillor Wright's mouth, more about the quality of that. So the internal road that's there won't be handed over to council, will still be part of the internal development. Will there be any recommendation of any change in the quality of that road, or that road will be the same quality as that now? I think that's kind of part of the...
Oh, I'm sorry, misheard. No, yeah, it's part of the development conditions, yeah. It's required to be improved and remedied, yes.
Right. Okay, thank you. That answers your question, Councillor Wright?
Yeah, it does, Mr. Mayor, thank you, and I'm sure that plenty of members of the public would be happy to hear that as well. Thanks.
That's right. Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Shattery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to thank you to the business. They put a confidence on Dubbo and investing further in Dubbo, so it creates a lot of jobs and further in helping our local community, boosting that economy too. And also, like as public speaker mentioned, like if after build this extra bit, it will be top 10 store in the Dubbo. Top 10 in the throughout the NSW maybe. So I'd like to really thank you that your great decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shadow. It's $11.5 million development there, so it's always good to see that amount of money being spent in Dubbo. Any further questions or debate, councillors? Councillor Wright, you do have a right of reply. No, there were a couple of comments there, so you've got a right of reply. Now you can actually say a bit more. You don't have to ask a question this time.
I just wasn't sure whether where Bunnings would source their construction materials from, whether they source them locally or not.
Right, yeah, thank you, Councillor Wright. No further discussion or debate. I put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. So thank you, Mr Wilkinson, for hanging around. I'm sure that was the decision. You might have been here for the whole meeting just to enjoy the meeting, but that might have been the one you were staying around for. So, but you don't feel you've got to leave now. There's so much more excitement to happen yet. Next item, CCL 22/295, D22-217, multi-dwelling housing and community title subdivision. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Mr CEO.
I'd like to declare a significant pecuniary interest in the matter, as I have a house on Durham Circuit, and Durham Circuit is referenced both in a submission and a response from staff to that public submission, so I'll leave the room whilst this matter is being considered.
And who do we have filling in for you?
I'll have Ms Comer, who will be fulfilling my role.
Excellent, thank you. As councillors will be aware, we cannot conduct a council meeting without a CEO, so general manager, in the actual room. So if the CEO's got to leave, then he's got to assign someone else that duty. So Ms Comer is filling that role. Now, we also had a conflict for Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I will just declare a pecuniary and significant interest. I recently acquired a block of land at public auction in the Keswick estate, and I feel that any discussion or decision made around a significant development nearby that block may have an impact on the purchase of or the value of my property. So I will also leave the room, but note that no one will be replacing me in my role.
Thank you, Councillor Wright.
You're replaceable.
Now, any other conflicts from councillors? No. And staff-wise, there was no other conflicts from staff? Okay, thank you. So, we've got D22-217 before us. Councillor Etheridge has moved that. Discussion or debate, councillors? There was a seconder. Councillor Chowdhury was a seconder. Sorry, Ms Rouse. So, any discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
Clarification, Mr Mayor. What number did you just refer to?
That was the DA number I referred to. So the item is CCL 22/295. The DA is D22-217. So my apologies, I quoted the DA number rather than the item number. Now, so do you want to ask a question or make a comment?
I'd like to make a comment about this.
Over to you.
I note the development, and it's great to see development proceeding, particularly this type of high-density development. But in looking at it, I do have some concerns. We have there a proposal for 73 residences, high-density ones, and I know this might be a little bit schematic, but shown in the diagram there, amongst those 73 units are 55 trees. And really, we're in the Central West here, we are in a very hot environment. We're likely to suffer more extremes with climate change. There's a proven benefit for trees. Having canopy does produce some environmental effects. And I just think it's a pity that we as a council don't somehow, if we can exert more influence on some of the developments to increase the numbers of trees and the tree coverage. I understand that this particular project is consistent with the current DDCP, which is brought in 2013, and so really I do concede that it's probably a bit late now to be raising this issue, but certainly I do flag it because I think it is something that which we as a council really should look at to perhaps make some changes to that planning agreement or planning conditions to make such developments as like this a little bit more environmentally friendly. I did go and have a look around that area and just to have a look at it, and I noticed that in I think it's Tanger Avenue, which is just in that area near the Masonic Village, that the roads have actually been designed as an avenue with a line of trees down the middle of the road and then vehicular access on either side of that line of trees. And that seems to me to be a good compromise where you've got high density, probably not too much room for people to put a tree in their backyard. They probably don't want a tree in their backyard. But if that's the case, then I think the obligation should be for some of that more public space or that shared space to have more tree coverage than what is shown in this development.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any further? Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I echo everything that Councillor Ivey just said there, and I think there will be an opportunity for us to look at the development control plan at some stage in the future, I hope, where we might be able to have a greater influence over the planting of trees in new estates. There are a few around Dubbo that do seem to be fairly lacking in tree coverage, and there's lots of gutter development. So I know a report the other day in the Guardian newspaper. It was saying about climate variability and climate change, and how the droughts are getting deeper and more frequent, more heat waves, more extreme weather events like we've had the last 3 years in Australia with 3 La Ninas in a row. One of the ways to mitigate that and make Dubbo livable into the future would be for planting trees to help create a cooler environment in town where you have all that heat build up. So I certainly echo Councillor Ivey's comments, and I think that it's something as a council we'd like to be able to have a look at some stage in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Further questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Etheridge, you do have a right of reply if you wish to on anything that Councillor Ivey or Black has raised.
No, only that I echo the sentiments of both Councillor Ivey and Councillor Black.
Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. We have that before us at the moment. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Okay, could I ask someone to get the CEO and Councillor Wright back in the room, please? Okay, thank you, councillors. Next item is CCL 22/296 D22-416 office premises, signage and subdivision at 28 Blue Ridge Drive, Dubbo. Can I someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Now we have some conflicts there. Councillor, there was a couple of councillors that wanted to, I think, look at a conflict on that one, was there?
No.
Not that one, there was the road. Okay, sorry, thank you. My apologies. So, Councillor Etheridge, do you wish to speak to that one?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Interesting to note, councillors, those last 3 that we've just put through there, $11.5 million development, $19.6 million development, $7.2 million development, so almost $40 million in development out of those 3 DAs. So obviously there is some investment strength in Dubbo just looking at those 3 alone there. So it looks good for Dubbo. Next item, CCL 22/297, Community Services Fund 22-23, Community Benefit Funding in accordance with Section 356 Local Government Act 1993. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Black. Seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Black, you wish to speak to that?
Only very quickly. Thanks, Mr Mayor. It's great to see so many community organisations out there and that council can support them with some funds. 2 of the ones I note are the Dubbo Environment Group with their Indian Miner Control Program. It's great that people do actually care about their environment and want to clean out the Indian miners, and I see even a few starlings being caught of late in the traps that people have around Dubbo and surrounds, and it's bigger than just Dubbo. So I'm glad that council can support that with some funds. And another interesting one is the Wellington Community Progress and Action Group Macquarie River Platypus Survey. There still are some platypuses out there in the environment, and whether they've all been flooded out and washed away recently, I'm not sure. But it's great this group will be able to do a bit of a survey and hopefully lead to some more platypuses in the river at some stage based on data. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Anything else, councillors? Any other question about Councillor Wright?
Yeah, just a question, Mr Mayor. I noticed they're doing it for rural Aussie kids. Their Planet for Community Fund Day didn't meet application criteria. Is there a little bit of guidance from council then to maybe push them towards other grant applications or opportunities that they might be able to take advantage of?
Good question, Councillor Wright. I'll pass that through to the CEO.
Through to the Director, Ms Bathurst-Blake.
Yeah, we do talk to groups that miss out on funding and guide them to any other available funding when they don't meet the criteria.
Thank you, Ms Bathurst-Blake. Anything further, Councillor Wright?
No, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Okay, there being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 22/298, Financial Assistance 2022-23, Round 1. So I'll move that report, please. Thank you, Councillor Etheridge, seconded by Councillor Black. Any discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 22/299, proposed road closure, Park Merrily Road West in Moffat Estate. Have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Black. Seconded by Councillor Mann. Councillor Black, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 22/300, review of the rate peg methodology, WA Regional Council submission. Can someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Discussion or debate, councillors, wish to speak to that first of all, Councillor Ivey?
Yes, Mr Mayor, thank you. Look, a great idea. It's great that IPART have called out to the constituents and asked for some feedback on how that rate pegging legislation or application might work. I must admit, I'll be quite honest and say I was a little bit disappointed with the report that we put in. I thought it could have been a little bit more prescriptive. It included a few generalised statements like, we shouldn't be looking backwards, we should be looking forwards. And I just thought that maybe it would be a good opportunity for the council to put in some specific issues, maybe use some examples using historical data of how this a new, more fair and effective rate pegging policy might be implemented.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Other questions or debate, councillors? Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to say that really our rates aren't covering what we need to do as a council. At the moment, our rates and fees and charges, there's been lots and lots of cost shift from state and federal governments, particularly the state, onto local councils, but there hasn't been the monetary support to allow that to happen. So I know that rates are dear in Dubbo. People tell me that all the time. What do I get for my rates? The trouble is that the way we're going, everything will be closed down one day if we can't get some non-rate revenue, make lots of efficiencies or get more grant funding. So it's a real problem for all councils, I'm sure, but particularly for us, and especially with the bad weather of the last 3 years to keep up with the roadworks. But making ends meet is going to be a problem into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other questions or comments, councillors? No, there being none. Councillor Ivey, you can do a right of reply if you wish to use it. No? Okay, all those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 22/301, report on the status of notice of motion. Have someone move that, please. Thank you, Councillor Showery. Seconded by Councillor Ivey. Councillor Showery, do you wish to speak to that?
I have an amendment on that.
Okay, you've moved. You've moved that, so amending your own motion that you've moved. Maybe.
We have an amendment, Mr Mayor.
Okay, you're moving that amendment now, Councillor Etheridge?
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
excellent. Thank you. No problems. Can you give me that amendment, please?
The amendment is point 1, that the information contained within the report of the Manager of Corporate Governance dated the 16th of November 2022 be noted. Point 2, that a report on the status of notices of motion be provided on a quarterly basis. And point 3, that a register of completed notices of motion for this term of council be included as a separate appendix in every quarterly report.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Can I have someone second that, please? Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Councillor Etheridge, do you wish to speak to your amendment?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor. It's self-explanatory.
Okay, thank you. So, discussion or debate on the amendment, councillors. Councillor Showery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank you, the council, brought this report because we all busy and sometimes committee asks a lot of like a notice of motion update. So through this quarterly report, like a committee can see where councillors all this notice of motion up to, and we can give some update to the community too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Showery. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
Yes, I'd like to commend Councillor Showery on proposing this motion. And therefore the amended motion. It really is I'm a great believer in being able to have things summarised in an easy to read fashion, and I think this report does that, and the amendment also does that. I think maintaining a register of completed projects is a great thing to do. we all, I'm sure, in our work start out with a list and you sort of cross out the things that you've done, but you always end up with many more on the list. But at least if you've got a register of the ones that have actually been completed, it's a very good check and a good way to say, well, actually we are achieving something, we are accomplishing something. And I think really just that the list of notice of motion there with the summary of what the actions have been subsequent to those notice of motions is very good. In fact, I read through them and I actually learned a couple of things out of them. So that I think was a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any other discussion or debate on the amendment, councillors? No. So, Councillor Showry, you have a right of reply as the mover of the original motion. You have a right of reply to the amendment if you wish to utilise that.
No, I'm good. Thank you, Mr.
Okay, thank you. So, we're voting on the amendment. The amendment is the amendment that Councillor Etheridge put forward. So, all those in favour of the amendment? Okay, against? Declare that carried. So, the amendment now becomes the motion. So, now we're back to the original motion, the original mover. Any further discussion or debate on the motion? And there's no need for right of reply again, Councillor Shaddock, because there's no further debate. So I put that now. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. CCL 22/302, the annual report. Can I have someone move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Black. Seconded by Councillor Showry. Councillor Black, you wish to speak to that?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Okay. Any discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Showry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a very good report, and I think I'll request the community to have a look through online. But if someone wants to get a printed copy, how they can collect, and is there any time frame when this going to be published online? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It has to be published by the 3rd of November, and I assume it will be published fairly close to that date, but I'll just double check with the CEO.
That's correct.
Yep. Okay, so it will be available at 5 p.m. on the close of business on the 3rd of November.
Possibly during the day, I suggest.
So by at the latest possible time will be at close of business on the 30th of November.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shaddock. And printed ones, you had a question about printed ones as well. Mr. CEO, in relation to printed copies?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, we don't produce a lot of printed copies, and that has been for some time, so the digital versions would seem to be more useful. But if they contact our customer experience and they do need a printed copy, they can be made available on request.
Will they need to give their date of birth, Mr. CEO, to get a printed copy?
I think that's off topic, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Showry. Any further questions? Councillor Wright.
Only a comment. I just wanted to congratulate the photographers and editors for creating some flattering photos of a number of the staff and councillors for that publication. Well done. There's obviously been a fair bit of editing and airbrushing going on there. So.
Thank you. You're talking about councillors there, Councillor Wright?
Just a broad statement. A bit of everybody, I think.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other questions or debate, councillors? Councillor Black, you wish to exercise your right of reply?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 22/303, questions on notice, Councillor Showry. I assume you want to move that. Thank you, Councillor Showry. Seconded by Councillor Black. Councillor Showry, do you wish to speak to that?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I had a few questions came from the community, how in future, because Dubbo is growing and the people in Dubbo are also very health conscious. So how we can make sure on this, like a new development, include the footpath and walkway for the local residents. It's well explained. There's a good explanation. All the information in there. Also, there's a blackbutt rest area that been came through in my attention. There's a big area, but there's no amenities in for drivers or tourists. How you can implement those and make more beneficial for the tourists and drivers. This report is showing good. But I have a question in that. So I read through that one. But is there any outcome we are expecting, is there any we can do some negotiation with transport? How we can implement facilities in there?
Through, do you take that to the CEO? So I'll ask through the CEO.
Certainly, it is a topic of discussion. We've highlighted the importance to our community, not only just users from their driving from a freight and logistics point of view, but certainly the neighbourhoods in that part of Dubbo would like that infrastructure there to prevent some littering and what have you. We've had, and myself with Mr Ryan, the Director of Infrastructure, had those conversations with the leadership of the western area of transport for New South Wales. They're ongoing. Can't give you a guarantee, but they do understand it's their responsibility, and they are working to see what they can deliver in that regard.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sherry. So, any further? Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, good question by Councillor Chowdhury to do with that Blackbutt rest area beside the zoo there. I've lived out behind the zoo for over 20 years and have seen the increase in the trucks parking there overnight, especially since that section of the highway was done up probably 5 years or so ago, maybe more. Sometimes there'll be like up to 20 trucks parked there. Well, in the morning it's obvious that those trucks probably aren't going to be doing business in town, so if there was a proper rest area either there or somewhere else, or they could go around and bypass, that would be fantastic. I have had residents up in Kintyre complain to me that people use it like basically like a toilet down there, an open sewer in the trees. So if Transport for New South Wales government could provide a rest area there while we're waiting for a bypass, that would be fantastic. And also, you can get a few free campers there, but mostly people who want to come into Dubbo to spend their money will do that. If we can get the trucks that don't want to stop in Dubbo and do business right out of here, that'd be the way to go. But a state-funded and looked after, maintained toilet there would go a long way. Also, people have said to me that the sound of trucks coming and going all night and the refrigerated containers nearly drives them mad up there in Kintyre. So anything we can do to maybe get trucks out of Dubbo, the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any further? Councillor Chowdhury, you can ask a question because you've made you've moved it and you've commented to begin with, so you can ask a question if you'd like. Yeah, you will have a right of reply at the end. So, any further discussion or debate, councillors? No. Councillor Chowdhury, you do have a right of reply, which is to reply to things that Councillor Black might have said as part of that debate.
Yeah, no, all good. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And this is actually quite good, Councillor Chowdhury. I like the idea of asking those questions on notice, and that's a good use of that tool. So we've got that before us now. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Okay, comments and matters of urgency. I'll go around from the left. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to highlight it that our sister city Japanese delegate came to Dubbo, and I really thank the community plus the council staff done a fantastic job. And there was a couple of 1,000 people came, I believe, and it was a fantastic afternoon. And the delegates came from Japan. They also so much happy, and they took the very positive I think memory from us, because I've seen few Facebook comments through that. It's really positive, and I hope it will do that sort of festival in future more, and give it to the opportunity to the community to celebrate such a great event. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Etheridge.
Well, yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I too would like to comment on the Japanese delegation that came out to celebrate 20 years of our sister city relationship. That they were just such warm and inviting people. They had a lovely time. They intermingled and were happy. And the dinner was a really was a terrific success. And it's good to see that we've got such a strong relationship with them. Very strong. And they're very pleasant people to be around. And then also we had the citizenship. So good to see so many people becoming Australian citizens for our newest citizens. A lot of them coming out here to live and work and play, and once they get here, they're so glad that they did. Questions that I'd asked of some of them said that it was the best thing that they'd done. They were really happy being here in Dubbo. So I think that makes Dubbo shine as a very inclusive. We're becoming very multicultural, but we're very inclusive. We welcome everybody, and everybody feels welcome. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oh, and also the Dubbo Day Awards last night. What a terrific night, and what great people. Made me very proud to be a part of this community with such fine people. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Burns.
Not much to report, just that the Reconciliation Action Plan's coming along nicely as we expected it, and I'm a little bit upset that I missed the visitors coming from Japan. Couldn't be at some of the events, and looking forward to the next one. But I know a lot of the mob over there, and I was at the first, I think it was the first signing of the, when they first brought the tea house over. So, and put that up. So it's really awesome to see that the connection between Japan and Minakamo and Dubbo is really strong, still strong. I didn't realise it was still so strong. But so I've been over there 7 times, and it was great to see and read about all the successful projects that were set up on the weekend. That's all.
Thanks, Councillor Burns. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Once again, we've gone another month with no announcement on the Alcohol and Other Drug Rehab Centre that Dubbo and the region desperately needs. I also note that Mudgee got $150,000 from the state government for an NRL game. Hopefully the state government can kick the can our way on the same sort of money for some other initiative that this council might bring forward to help fund that, to bring tourists and visitors to Dubbo. I note that some flood-affected councils are sharing in $15 million worth of funding, emergency funding from the state government, and that's fantastic for those councils and much needed. But this council area as well needs, we could easily handle that $15 million on our own. So hopefully there's some emergency money coming to Dubbo, because our roads and other infrastructure are in a massive emergency as a result of floods. So that would be fair. I was running out of time to say this before when I was speaking. I note that the report earlier on, basically the whole Regan Park show, says that consultation will be sort of over the Christmas New Year period, closing in early February 2023, when Australia basically shuts down from the 24th of December to the 27th of January. I thought that it might be able to be extended. That's what the council website actually says, that the plan there says the feedback from the public exhibition will be considered by technical staff and the consultants before producing a final master plan for council's consideration at a meeting in April 2023. I note that the state election is at the end of March. I hope that we're not rushed into anything based on someone else's timing, that we're doing what's good for Dubbo. And also I'd just like to reiterate the comments about the visit from the Japanese delegation. I saw some pictures there of Councillor Burns from previous visits. There was a great event on the Saturday night, the dinner there. It was great to catch up. I went as a chaperone maybe 11, 12 years ago. You lose track of time, and to catch up with some of those people that I met in Japan and have seen a couple of times in Dubbo since, and it would be really good once COVID sort of dies down a bit to restart the exchanges, because the students get a lot out of it. There's even been a couple, at least one, maybe 2 marriages from it. So anything we could do there would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just 2 things. Just one of them with regards to community consultation. we often go to community for a number of particular topics, subjects, items, and call on community consultation. And I know at times we might have a number of things out in the public domain for the community to comment on and provide feedback on, but and that can be a little bit overburdening for the community to continue to try and provide information and feedback to council. But that information is so important to us as councillors to try and make those decisions guided by what the public wants to see in their city or in this LGA. So just to the public, keep your eyes out for items that continually pop up in that community space. And if you've got interest or you've got any sort of random thoughts you'd like to contribute, please do so, because your comments don't go unheard. That's information we really want to see as councillors. The second one was just following on from comments Councillor Black just made with regards to flooding. Look, I had the rather humbling experience of visiting Eugowra yesterday and witnessing firsthand the devastation over there. I know Eugowra is not in our LGA, but certainly Eugowra is not in the LGA of a number of the supporters and volunteers that stuck their hand up yesterday. We met people from Nowra, Newcastle, Lake Macquarie, Sydney, Bathurst. There were people there just lending a hand. So there's a lot to be done over there. Those people, their spirits are high, but certainly being challenged at the moment. So to anyone who might have an opportunity to spare a day or two or three or a few hours or whatever it might be to go over and help the people of Eugowra and look, of course, Canoundra, Kewdale, Molong, all of those centres over there through that Cabon LGA are struggling, but certainly not so more than Eugowra at the moment. So if you get a bit of chance, head over to Eugowra, spend a day over there. Your assistance will be greatly appreciated. So.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Ivey.
Yes, Mr Mayor, just to continue on the flooding theme, I'd like to just comment a couple of issues about the flooding that occurred, really has been occurring all this year, but particularly a couple of weekends ago on the Bell River and the Bell River Flats. There's been significant chatter on social media and other areas about the damage to the Duke of Wellington, the low-level bridge, and perhaps the role that the responsibility that this council may have had to have tried to do something about that, to prevent that damage. Now, as we know, that's not an issue from our point of view. There's nothing that we could have done about it in this term of council. But what really gets me about it is not that accusation. It's the fact that chatter has taken away a lot of the awareness of the damage that has been done along that whole Bell River. It's not just the low-level bridge. Yes, that's has suffered, or the approaches have suffered great damage. But if you go back upstream through that Bell River, which is an enormously productive area, if you go back upstream there about 7 or 8 kilometres, then I can name so many people whose livelihood has been absolutely devastated by that, and really there's been no publicity about that. We've got Jim Willock, one of the probably the closest landowner to the Bell River Bridge. Over the years, has probably lost about 30 or 40 acres of very productive alluvial land. You've got Brendan and Sharon Cottrell, who were just a bit further up, who bought about 2 or 3 years ago. Lucerne growers have lost a significant area of their Lucerne farm. We've got Mark Dutton further upstream, who's got a fantastic property. He's a very innovative grower. He's producing a lot of hybrid corn seeds, very high value crops. He has got an area there which is absolutely devastated. There's a gully cut through the middle of it. It's strewn with gravel and debris right across these very productive areas. You've got the cemetery. You've got people whose relatives are in the cemetery being absolutely inundated, complete damage. You've got the golf club who have suffered so many floods this year. I think this last flood, about 16 of their 18 greens, maybe 15 of their 18 greens were underwater. So, this is something that is really having, for those people and the community generally, is having a devastating effect. And all we're hearing about is whether the bloody council did or didn't, should have done something to prevent the damage to the low-level bridge. I think it's very poor of the people who are pushing that really the awareness should be of the damage that is done to so many people and a big sector of the community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Councillor Mann.
Very moving words, Councillor Ivey. Terribly flow-on effects from the dramas. Just wanted to mention the breakfast on Saturday. It'll be the first opportunity that I've actually been in town when these leaders' breakfasts are being held on 7:30 to 9:30, Mr Mayor, I believe is correct?
Correct.
The Rotunda, so I'll be there, and I look forward to meeting anyone that comes along and wants to share their ideas or their feedback.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Just a very quick one on the Oldham Jail. So most council will be aware that Oldham Jail won a silver award at the New South Wales Tourism Awards last Thursday night, so that's fantastic recognition for the great work that one of our tourist attractions does. But just hot off the press, literally as we speak, both Jess and Jamie are at an awards ceremony, a different awards ceremony in Sydney right now, and they've just won the Imagine Awards, the exhibition project museums for 3 out of 10 staff, and so we've just picked up that award literally as we speak, so that was minutes ago. So the jail's going quite well in terms of being able to pick up those awards and gain some additional focus and some additional publicity out of winning those awards, and good recognition for the staff and the great work that they're doing there as well. So we'll probably have a presentation of that award, or both awards actually, at the 8th of December council meeting. So we've got the New South Wales Tourism Awards award, but we'll also have that award back here in 2 weeks' time. So well done to the jail. Okay, thank you, councillors. Now, under Section 10A of the Local Government Act, the item CCC 22/64, which we saved and accepted from the committee meeting, has been identified as likely for discussion at closed session of council. So can I have someone move us into confidential council, please? Thank you, Councillor Black, seconded by Councillor Wright. Now, before we have any discussion or debate on that, we've had no applications from members of the public to make their representations regarding whether the meeting should be closed to the public. Do any members of the public in the public gallery have any comments to make regarding the proposal to hear hear this item in a closed session of council? Mr Guy, any objections? We've got one person there. Okay, thank you. So, councillors, any discussion or debate on moving into confidential? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. So we will now move into confidential to deal with that item. We will come out and then we'll go into committee of the whole and go back into confidential. As we're moving into confidential committee of the whole, I advise the web streaming will stop. Okay, so we've got one item that was dealt with in confidential council, CCC 22/64. Ms Rouse, can I ask you to read out the decision or the resolution of council from CCC 22/64, please?
Licence agreement for 74 Windywara Street, The Greens. It's noted that the Director, Culture, People and Places declared a non-pecuniary less than significant conflict of interest and remained in the chamber for the duration of this item. It is also noted that Councillor Wright declared a non-pecuniary less than significant conflict of interest in this item and remained in the chamber. The motion that Council seek an expression of interest for licence agreement for 74 Windywara Street, The Greens, for a term of 1 year with an option of an additional year. 2, that the expression of interest be publicly advertised and open until close of business on 7 December 2022.
Thank you, Ms Rouse. So we also had committee of the whole. So I'll ask someone to move committee of the whole, and we'll go through the individual components in a moment, but ask someone to move the committee of the whole meeting, save and accept 22/4. Thank you, Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. So that committee of the whole, which is save and accept 22/4, basically had 22/3, and I'll read that recommendation there to save Ms Rouse the trouble of that. So this is the committee of the whole that was just resolved from council, and the recommendation from 22/3 from committee of the whole was that all actions to acquire land relating to the current alignment of the Southern Distributor Road cease immediately, that alternative solutions in line with outcomes defined in the Transportation Strategy 2020 be investigated. So that's the only item we're dealing with at the moment. So can I have a mover of that, of dealing with that in the report of committee of the whole, save and accept 22/4. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury, seconded by Councillor Wright. Any discussion or debate? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Now I need someone to move the 22/4 from the committee of the whole, because we've got some declarations on that. Councillor Wright, thank you. Councillor Etheridge, seconded that. Can I have Councillor Black declare your interest, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. On that item, my interest is that it's a non-pecuniary less than significant interest as it relates to potential alignment of Sheraton Road. I'm employed by a school on Sheraton Road. There will be no monetary benefit to myself or the school, and I will not use that road, the new part of the road, in my daily travels to and from work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Also, Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I declare CW22/4 non-pecuniary less than significant. I am employed at Blue Ridge Business Park, and that will not impact on any financial impact on my decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. And Councillor Mann.
I declare a non-pecuniary less than significant conflict on CW22/4 also. I own property and operate a business in Blue Ridge Business Park.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. So the item that we had that was dealt with in Committee of the Whole, 22/4, the declaration has now been declared. So we've got a mover and seconder of that. The item there is that Council adopt the alignment of the Blue Ridge Link Road as described in the body of this report, that Council delegate to the Chief Executive Officer the authority to negotiate and enter into contracts for the acquisition of land for the proposed road corridor from Sheraton Road to the Mitchell Highway, utilising the rates contained in the body of this report, that the information contained within this report remain confidential to Council. So we've got a mover and a seconder. Any further discussion or debate? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. There are no further items for consideration of the ordinary council meeting. I declare the meeting closed, the time being 8:08 p.m. I thank people for attending, but I do apologise for the interruption in web streaming tonight. All of the meeting will be posted at a later date, so you can look back and review the entire meeting. Web streaming has now been completed. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you, Ms. Wade.